Welcome, everybody, to another episode of Strife's Sanctum podcast. My name is Citizen Strife, and this week I'm talking about Makeine, Too Many Losing Heroines. And I was going to review this show last week, but I got sick with a kind of a cold, and I'm finally starting to feel better. But as I stated last week, I'm recording this while I'm in the vestiges of that, so if you hear a little sniffling or whatever, bear that in mind. But this was a show I watched a couple of months back. I'd heard about it and didn't really watch it at the time, but I had some time to, dig into new shows, and Makeine was one that I really ended up liking a lot when I watched it. And part of it is because harem shows and, romance shows and stuff like that, it does take the characters being having an interesting chemistry to work. And there are times where they make it too obvious who the main girl is, and this is one of those, but it's also you can see that it's not always that case, I'm not saying that I don't like it when it's the obvious choices, but this one, they haven't given it, I imagine there's a second half of this show ready to happen, right? But this was more about the girls who got rejected and how they react to it and how they move on with their lives, and whether they like this other guy or not, and how they interact, and it's a balancing act sometimes, because there are sometimes where it's a harem show and it's just there's nothing there. Right? There's no substance. There's no, they're just doing this for the stupid fan service or whatever. Or it's so obviously dumb. It's so obviously dumb. I think the dialogue in the show is what's holding this one up. And the characters having interesting backstories and interesting ways of how they got to where they are. And knowing that there's an ambulance waiting for that to go by. You might hear it. I love living in the city. Anyway. Dealing with, you have to have a main character who isn't a complete turd, but isn't just a complete panty waste either. Don't be a dick, but don't be a wimp either. So that it's an interesting balance, and I think the main character is interesting enough that he isn't just searching for girls, he just knows them, and he's working with them. He's smart enough to not oh, this is cool, I'm with all the girls, and this, it's a situation that seems natural, and that's important. So, and it does come down to those kind of four main leads and their stories. The main character is Kazuhiko Nukumizu, voiced by Kevin D. Thelwell. He is, just a normal guy. Watches I forget if he plays romance games or he reads romance novels or whatever, but he kind of just thinks, I'm just a normal guy. I'm kind of the loser, the standard protagonist guy, but he doesn't overthink it. He's just there. He exists. He's sitting in a restaurant. He observes this breakup with Anna Yanami, and she's voiced by Trisha Mellon. So Anna is just getting this breakup. He spots her, and if you know anything about Makeine, you probably know the gif of her just snorting out her cola while he's watching, and that's how I knew it, because I didn't know anything else about the show, but her doing that. And then she sits down and she's like, just dumb. And she's talking about her breakup, and he's just listening into it. And they order this food, and she finds out she can't pay, right? So Nukumizu is just like, all right, fine, whatever. Just get me some food, for lunch break or whatever, and we'll call it even, but it's a lot of food, so they end up making a deal out of it. They start slowly getting used to this whole lunch day bento thing at their own spot. So the closest approximation I would give for Yanami is Aqua. For the hilarity that would ensue. Like, again, the show is not trying to be as like off the wall and dumb as Konosuba, right? But Yanami just has this like weird obsession with food, the way Aqua has this weird obsession with booze. So she's just like kind of just there and goofy and weird and cheerful, but also just like, dude, don't push me. Just don't, whatever. Her whole thing is, I'm not defined by my old relationships. I wanted to be with this person and they didn't want me. That's fine. Fuck it. It's life. Shit like that, it happens, you know. So her concept is, I'm starting to like being around this guy as a friend, but that's as far as it goes. And then she kind of filters into the background as like that main lead girl that you can always kind of go back to. But you find that the show rightly does a smart thing sometimes, and you know, for a lot of shows like this, you have the episode with the other girls and it's their turn, you know, but it always still feels like they're trying to force the first girl into that main girl position, and it's like, I'm the reasonable one, but she takes a back seat. And it's kind of nice sometimes. It's like they give you enough of her that she doesn't be annoying. You know, and that was something I felt with like Toradora. It was like a harem. It was a harem show that actually wasn't, because it's like they're trying to force a thing that wasn't there, because it was pretty obvious from the get-go. It was just these two and just forget it. This at least masks it well enough that you're just not sitting there going, okay, I already know that those two are together. Just stop taunting me with other girls, you know. You can conceivably think that later on in life, maybe because they haven't been focusing on Yanami and they're giving a lot actually to a different girl later in the season, that, you know, they don't have to go that route. You know, it's not set in stone as the whatever. And I'm not saying it has to be. I'm saying that conceivably, depending on what the story tells you, you're not sitting there going, okay, I know, just get to the point where they, you know, that feeling. So Yanami gets to be the main girl, but not forcing the issue enough. That's like, oh, okay, it's fine. Because there are the other two that are interesting. You have Lemon Yakishio. She's voiced by Bev Megato. And her whole thing is she's a track star, you know, interesting girl, upbeat, but also dealing with her own sort of breakup. It's one of those like childhood friends, but he's a dense dude, and you find out that he's actually gotten asked out by a different girl. What I like is that they pull her into the story so that they become friends, but then she goes over to the other people and she's like, they're tailing the dude because they're still friends and they're still talking, and they're like, dude, but you're, you know, the whole thing is that like he doesn't know how to deal with being in a relationship with the one girl, so he's talking to Yakishio, who already still likes him. So it's that push-pull of, you're taunting me with this relationship that we could have had to further a relationship you had with another, but by doing so, you're being with me so that you're saying, are you being unfaithful, and what, you know, that cool stuff. It's a cool dynamic, honestly. And she ends up talking with Nukumizu too, because it's like they do the whole trapped in the PE room junk. They've done that in a couple of shows, and they do that, and she's just kind of dopey, kind of whatever, but the sporty kind of dopey, and it's fun. So she gets kind of the middle episodes of the season, which is nice. And I kind of like her because I've always had a fondness for the more athletic people, the sporty people, the more outgoing people. I mean, Yanami is nice, and I kind of like her the most, but it's also like, I don't like her at the same time because, you know, there's that push-pull. So it's like, I want to like Lemon more as a person just because of her, you know, just of her mindset. So she gets her episodes, and, you know, her relationships are good. I think the show focuses on the third girl, honestly, a lot more. and it's Chika Komori, voiced by Morgan Lee, and her thing actually takes more of like the early parts of the show, gives a little bit to Lemon and Anna again, and then the last few episodes are about Komori. So I don't know whether this is like the subterfuge thing where she's the main girl all along, and I whatnot, because I get the liking of characters like Miku Nakano, right? This is one of those. The very squirrely, unsure of themselves, girls that don't know how to talk to people and whatnot. But my God, and I do like her. And I understand her reticence, and she's like, she likes the person in the literature club. The idea here is that outside of Yanami's debt, and Nukumizu and whatever, they're together, they join the literature club and they do stuff, and they kind of get dragged along. There's a couple other characters who are leading the club, but Komori is going to be made the next successor, but she's unsure of herself. She doesn't do public speaking very well. That fucking character. I honestly do not like those characters a lot. I've said this quite a lot. The shy person, the whatever, because I've been there. I know that, but I don't ascribe to that character. I just, and maybe that's because I'm a lot older and I'm kind of sick of that character archetype being, foisted as, the thing. So, I get where people were coming from, that it's an interesting thing, and I do think Miku is one of the ones that I did like because she was goofy in her own way, but I don't know if I ascribe the same to Chika in the same direction, but she's not angsty either. This is not like the tsundere and the whatnot. It's just she's very squirrely and, trying to deal with that situation, and you understand that she's trying to run the club now that her more her senpai are gone, and it's like she did the smart thing of early on saying, I like this guy, I've always liked this guy, but I can't compete, but I'm going to try anyway. So that situation is why she got rejected, but she still foisted upon this whole literature club thing. But the end of the season, the biggest arc is trying to come to grips with being the leader of the group, but also not being the best face for the group, because Nukumizu is offering, hey, I can do all the public speaking stuff for you, I can do the whatever, just let me do it so we can put our best foot forward, because they're dealing with opposing forces in the school and saying, no, let's not do that. But Komori is I'm going to do this. I want to do this. I'm going to do, she wants to do, and I give her credit for being a person who wants to break out of that rather than Nukumizu forcing, because there is that dynamic sometimes in other shows where it's you gotta do this, you gotta do, no, this is the show telling you that the person themselves wants to do it and is fighting back against the you gotta go and get them, whatever, breaking free, because that's kind of interesting. It's a subversive feel because that's so cliche. The break free and do it yourself and what, because I saw that in Honey Lemon Soda this season. It's just break free, and no, she wants to. And she's going to. And she's pissed that people are trying to take away, whether it was in the right frame of mind or not, taking her work away from her because she just isn't the right fit right now. And, there's that relationship with Nukumizu where he's just I want to help, but she's just dude, I can do this. I want to do this myself. Well, that's where there's that social anxiety, and it's how far is too far, and they're pushing together, and I do feel that it's that one I can understand it, and I do like it because of that subversive element of saying I want to be better because I want to make a good impression on the person that I used to like, who used to run this club and now is going off and graduating. It's whatever. I'm going to be in good hands because I can do it. But there's also Nukumizu sitting there going, you know what? If you push yourself too hard, you're going to get sick. you need to rely on other people. So, I like both sides of that coin of saying, don't do everything yourself, because when you realize you're doing it yourself, you push everybody away and it fucks everything up. So their relationship, all four of them together, really, that's what the show works best at, is the chemistry and not forcing the main girl stuff for now, because they give everybody a reason to be there, even if it's kind of goofy as a concept, because they do the whole, oh, here's the pool episode, here's the beach episode, here's the school festivals episode, the tried and true stuff you've seen in a lot of school shows. But when it boils down to it, when you get to, do you like the main character? I like him because he isn't trying to be, the goofy pervert dork, or the, oh my god, I'm so boring and average and I don't care. He has some personality to him that extends beyond being that guy, or the other characters are just archetypes, but they're good at being archetypes that subvert the normal feel of their characters enough. And Komari is an example of that. So they go well off each other as these main leads, and you throw in these other characters that do these interesting things as side characters that pop up here and there, and they work well with the setup. So even though not a lot really happens in the show, I still felt invested in like their growth as people together as a group. And it made sense that it's like, oh, these people are actually friends now. They're, the romance stuff and the who wins and the whatever, that could be later. They might just throw in another set. I think sticking with these three is great. I don't know if they want to add more, but really, as I've said, there comes a diminishing return if you want to do more. I think 3 is like perfect because you've established these people as people. If you add any more just for the sake of, ooh, fresh and interesting, no. Maybe what they could do is maybe add in a character from earlier in seasons and be like, okay, well, now I got rejected in myself, and now I gotta, they might do that, but I'm still like, you're gonna lose focus. So that's probably like, there's still a lot of stuff they could do with this show. And I liked it enough that I couldn't really find anything wrong with it, even though it was just the standard cliche setups done over and again, because it's all about where these characters go with their chemistry. So did I enjoy Makeine Too Many Losing Heroines? I definitely did. There is a sense that I could get annoyed after a while, but I never did. These characters do the same things and they go the same places and they do the whatevers, but it has this air of, we know it's kind of dumb, we live with it, we're working with the confines of the structure of the show, but we know and can sidestep a lot of the problems that we've had, to make it an interesting show, because we're about trying to make us interesting rather than trying to make the stories interesting. It's about making the characters in the situations rather than the situations making the characters. Because at the end of the day, if you're not invested in the characters, why do you care what happens to them? I'm in that mode where I was given reason to care about all of these 4 people enough that I was like, yeah, I want to see what happens with more of this. I want more of this. I binge watched this thing in a couple of days. I was wholly invested in it. So I really enjoyed it. But that will do for this week's episode. And let's see. Dragon Quest III, HD 2D Remake, Spectre, Final Fantasy IX, and into May we got Mega May with Mega Man 3 and Mega Man X4. But that'll do for this week, and I'll see you next time. Citizen Strife, signing off.